we're not just helping, every business come into our area. We want to make sure it makes the most sense for that business as well as for Mesa County in general. That way it really is a win-win. And so two things we really focus on. One is diversifying the economy in Mesa County. We do not want to put all of our eggs in one industry basket, so to speak. We want to be able to spread that out across multiple industries. That way we're much more resilient when there's harder times, whether there's a recession or higher unemployment rates or less jobs, whatever that may be. We want to make sure we are a very resilient economy. And then two, we really want to focus on what we call primary jobs. So a primary job is anything that pays over the median annual earnings in Mesa County, which right now is a little over $50,000 annually. So that is really what we're trying to bring into the area, is more primary jobs and continuing to diversify the economy.
Welcome to the Koolers Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn, and I'm excited to have you join me as I interview community members and business leaders from the communities in which I live, work, and serve through my business Koolers Garage Doors. We're going to bring you highlights on characters in our communities. Why? Because community matters, and I want to know more about who is behind our business and leadership in order to understand and support the community fabric that our relationships make up. And collectively, we can build stronger communities that support our lifestyles, our youth, and our health.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Koolers Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuehlhorn. Today, I'm sitting down with Curtis Englehart, who is the Executive Director for the Grand Junction Economic Partnership, GJEP for short. Curtis, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and you're beaming in from downtown Grand Junction, yeah?
Yep, that's correct. We're in our office here downtown. Love this location, and so, yeah.
Yeah, right on. I'm excited to speak to you. I love economic development in general, and I know you're going to be able to get a lot more granular. Before we get into this component, I want to start back at the very beginning. Where did Curtis grow up?
Yeah, so I'm a Western Slope guy, born and raised. I was born in Grand Junction, but actually grew up in Delta, so about 45 minutes south of Grand Junction. So small town guy, grew up in Delta, graduated high school there, and then played college baseball. So I went to Trinidad State Junior College, played 2 years down there, and then transferred up to what was then Mesa State College, now Colorado Mesa University. Finished up my baseball career and got my degree, and then really have been here, in the Valley since 2006. So I love it here, have deep roots here, and definitely want to see Mesa County continue to be a place of opportunity. And so I feel like this job here really allows me to directly impact that.
I love that. Were you studying economics in school?
I was not. I was actually a sports management major, but it was on the business side. So a lot of business classes, which were helpful. But yeah, I definitely am not a sports agent by any means, but was glad to get a degree through CMU.
Yeah, I love it. So what was the concise story of playing ball in college, moving into your now role of executive director? How'd that play out?
So, baseball, if you would have asked me, during college what my greatest weakness was, it would have been I couldn't hit a curveball. And, it's since then, obviously, being able to take those skills I've learned in baseball more from a leadership and adversity standpoint and apply them to the real world and the workforce has really been crucial for me. I was fortunate enough to be a team captain both at the junior college level and then also at Mesa State. And so being able to get leadership skills at a younger age has just been very beneficial for me. And as I've worked my way up through my career, I've been given the opportunity to lead at multiple levels. And that's something that I am extremely passionate about, is leading strong, effective teams, creating a culture where people want to be here, where they get to come to work, not where they have to come to work. And all of that really started because of my experience playing baseball.
Hey everybody, this is Luke from Cooler Garage Doors. Just want to take a quick second to talk about our sponsor, Sommar Garage Door Openers. We believe Sommers are the best in the business when it comes to garage door openers. We always recommend them for residential installs because of the many features they have, such as Wi-Fi connectivity and safety features like a fixed chain that runs along a secure rail for a quiet and safe operation. Click the link to find out more about Sommar Garage Door Openers.
I love that. How long have you been the executive director?
So I have been the executive director here at GJEP only since August of 2022.
Okay.
But prior to that, I was at the Mesa County Workforce Center for 9.5 years, and I was the director there for 5.5. And that really allowed for, I wouldn't necessarily say a seamless transition, but a much smaller learning curve for me coming into the economic development world, because workforce development and economic development do go hand in hand. And then being able to establish those relationships with community leaders, state leaders, federal relationships, that was really being developed through my time at the Workforce Center and has really benefited me well coming into this GJEP role.
I love it. So let's get into, there's a couple of things. I made a note when you're talking about culture. That's a big topic that we might circle back into.
Yeah.
And, as a business coming into Grand Junction, I've interacted with GJEP a little bit. I feel like maybe I've just scratched the surface of a huge iceberg. So how do you explain GJEP? What's the mission? What are we doing?
Yeah, great question. So GJEP is all about economic development through the lens of helping businesses relocate to our area and also helping businesses expand. And part of that too, there's a retention piece in there too, where we want businesses to stay here and thrive here and grow here. And so we do that through a variety of different tools. We partner with the Office of Economic Development and International Trade. OEDIT is their acronym. And we do that because they offer a lot of state incentives that are very lucrative to businesses who are looking at relocating or expanding. But we're not just helping, every business come into our area. We want to make sure it makes the most sense for that business as well as for Mesa County in general. That way it really is a win-win. And so two things we really focus on. One is diversifying the economy in Mesa County. We do not want to put all of our eggs in one industry basket, so to speak. We want to be able to spread that out across multiple industries. That way we're much more resilient when there's harder times, whether there's a recession or higher unemployment rates or less jobs, whatever that may be. We want to make sure we are a very resilient economy. And then two, we really want to focus on what we call primary jobs. So a primary job is anything that pays over the median annual earnings in Mesa County, which right now is a little over $50,000 annually. So that is really what we're trying to bring into the area, is more primary jobs and continuing to diversify the economy.
The history of economics in Mesa, as I understand it, a lot of it was rooted in the, I guess it's just the gas and mining extraction industries. And is that an example of, having a majority of eggs in one basket, where as that declines, like there were a number of years that had some big impact? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we love our energy jobs. They are good jobs, they're high paying jobs. Yeah. But if you look back at 2008, when Mesa County fell into the Great Recession, we lost 14,000 people in our labor force through about 2008 up to about 2015. And majority of that is because we were so heavy in the energy industry. The bottom fell out of that industry, and with it went, a huge amount of our labor force. And then it took us a really long time to crawl out of that recession. But since then, the lesson learned is diversifying that economy. We still haven't gained back all of our labor force from the Great Recession, but man, we made some serious strides in impacting that. And if you look at our economy now, we have a very diverse, I would say, booming economy here locally. We have a healthy workforce. We have great primary jobs. We have low unemployment rates. But the oil and gas industry never did come back to where it was pre-Great Recession. And part of that just speaks to the diversification that our economy has seen since 2008. So our economy is much more diversified than it was, much more resilient. And that's not to say we don't want those energy jobs here. We definitely need those jobs and love those jobs, but it's nice to see this economy really diversify.
Yeah, and what I hear underlying diversification is real resiliency.
Absolutely.
And being able to weather storms as they play.
Yep.
And what did we see out of 2022? Do we have year-end numbers that speak to the work?
Yeah, we're very excited about our 2022 year-end numbers. So one thing that we like to do with GJEP is we want to put together an annual report every year so we can show the community the impact we had on our economy, as well as show our investors. I mean, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, and so we rely heavily on our investors and to make sure that we can accomplish the mission at GJEP. And part of that as an investor is they need to see what that return is on their investment. So we do that through our annual report every year. And we had a really strong last quarter of 2022. But overall in 2022, we saw 7 wins. And a win is what we determine an expansion or relocation to the area. With that, there was 83 new primary jobs that we saw come into the area, with a potential of 333 jobs. So when these companies come in, they're not hiring everybody at once. They have that hiring schedule. And so we should see many more jobs come to fruition because of the work that was done in 2022. I mentioned earlier, primary jobs. We're focusing on primary jobs, anything that pays over the median annual earnings. And those 83 jobs that were brought into the area in 2022, average wages for those was over $56,000 annually. So hitting our mission there. We also had a number of assists. We had 6 additional assists. So that means we helped in some form or fashion with relocation or expansion. And then lastly, that economic impact that we saw in 2022 was $15.6 million back into the economy here locally through our efforts. So as I sit and talk to my investors and talk to the community, I can say for every dollar invested in GJEP in 2022, we saw $20 in economic impact. And that's really powerful to have.
That's a great ROI.
Yeah, absolutely. We're proud of it.
What is it? I mean, how do we bring this down to the ground? So my question is, from a listener's perspective, and I can only imagine that we've got homeowners, business owners, community members that would listen. So we hear these numbers and there's some effectiveness that's happening as far as economic development. What does this mean, like on the ground, on Main Street? How does this ripple into the community?
Yeah, really good question. So with more jobs coming into the area, primary jobs creates more spending, creates more sales tax, creates more opportunity in general. So, I mean, you could take this and dissect it a ton of different ways here, but what it means for your, shop owner on Main Street is more business and more spending, which, allows you to grow or hit some goals that maybe were a little bit more unrealistic a few years ago. From a tourism standpoint, we're seeing it helps bring in more people from hospitality and tourism, and we see, take like your local breweries; those are seeing increase in sales, and we see more people out exploring our trails and our just outdoor recreation that we have here. So I would say, to sum it up in one word, it'd just be vibrancy. We're seeing, a very vibrant community here. And a lot of that is because of the work that we've been able to do with bringing new businesses in or helping businesses expand.
Yeah, I love it. And I can only imagine, being so rooted as a true local, being born and raised. I mean, over the years, and essentially like what I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, and in part is because of COVID, like there's been an influx of folks coming to the Western Slope.
Yep.
Like Grand Junction, I'm sure is part of the boom of folks coming from Front Range or other cities and finding a certain lifestyle and a sense of open space that is more and more valued. I mean, we talked about culture a little bit, but as far as community culture, do you feel like the town in general is ready for expansion? How do we put hooks on this to be mindful of it? You had mentioned kind of being a little bit of a gatekeeper in some ways and making sure the right businesses are coming in. How do we navigate that?
Yeah, so we want to have growth, but we want controlled growth, right? And so that can be tricky, and depending on your community. So we support the city of Fruita, the town of Palisades, city of Grand Junction, and everybody has different goals and visions for their community. So one, it's meeting with those community leaders and having a real in-depth conversation of what do you want your community to look like? And also meeting just with community members and having those conversations with them as well, because we don't need to be Denver, right? We need to be Mesa County. We need to be the Grand Junction area. And so it's that controlled growth, and it's really interviewing the prospect just as much as the prospect interviews us to make sure that we are a good fit for each other and we're going to thrive together. Your company's going to thrive here. You're going to be happy here. You're going to grow here. Your employees will be happy here. And so that's really kind of what we're looking for.
Yeah. So I imagine, a big piece of this is a lot of collaboration with different entities.
Yes.
Is GJEP a hub of that?
Absolutely. We really pride ourselves on our collaboration. In fact, it's one of our values internally is collaboration, and we have great community partners. I'd say there definitely is a spirit of collaboration in Mesa County. So we partner very well with our other economic development partners, which is the Grand Junction Area Chamber of Commerce, the Business Incubator. If you go back to 2015, the city of Grand Junction commissioned a economic development report that was termed the North Star Report. And in that came out an MOU, a memorandum of understanding between the economic development partners. And so it specifically calls out the Business Incubator, GJEP, and the Grand Junction Area Chamber of Commerce. And it says, this is what you do well. This is what GJEP does well, right? And so it allows us to all stay in our lanes, but also creates areas for collaboration. And so not all communities have that. Sometimes there's, maybe some internal fighting, or there's, some egos, whatever it may be. But I can genuinely say none of us at the economic development leadership level, we don't really care who gets credit for what, as long as we're winning together in Mesa County. And I feel like that's very rare for a community.
That perspective of win-win-win, I call it win-win-winning.
Yeah.
I think it's so powerful. So kudos, to the team and to yourself that now leads that component of culture. Because I do think that brings a lot of juice. And I've seen it. Small towns operate similarly on so many levels, where there's sometimes competition for limited resources and, like you mentioned, some egos. And so the collaborative mindset is noted, and that adds a lot of value.
Absolutely.
What are we excited for coming up? Obviously, I don't think the population shift is going to end anytime real soon. I think Grand Junction, Colorado Western Slope, we're on the map.
Yes.
What are we excited for? What's coming down the pipe?
So like I mentioned earlier, we had a really strong fourth quarter from a business win standpoint, and we're excited to see that continue. We have a lot of great prospects that we've been able to walk through the incentive process, and we're hoping to get those across the finish line and make some big announcements in 2023. And so that's always very exciting to see new businesses, more jobs, more primary jobs coming to the area. And that's what we're continuing to see. And so we're extremely excited about that. One other thing that we do here at GJEP is we host what's called the Western Colorado Economic Summit every year. And that's coming up on April 27th. and we're actually sold out for the first time. We sold out early this year. We have a waiting list, but that runs from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's at Colorado Mesa University, beautiful campus. And we have a morning keynote speaker, which will be President Marshall from CMU. We have a lunch keynote, which is the executive director for the Office of Economic Development and International Trade, Eve Lieberman. We have an awards ceremony. And then we have 9 different breakout sessions where we are taking a deep dive into economic drivers and trying to educate the community, collaborate together, and just really look for those opportunities where we can grow together. And so we're extremely excited about that event coming up.
I love that. Are we in general optimistic? Is there a hedge just in some of the communications in our news these days is about recession and doom and gloom, right? Like we can get a lot of that.
Yeah.
But where do you see Mesa County's economics in general going over the next 5 years? Like, is it a lot of optimism? Is it hedged? Is it?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I am an optimist in general, but I do have a lot of optimism for Mesa County. I would say, what we're seeing from a business standpoint right now is a little bit of this wait and see mode. Higher interest rates. Is there going to be a recession? Is there not? So we have seen a little bit of that, to be honest. But the way that Mesa County really recovered from the COVID pandemic was really remarkable and really showcased the resiliency of our economy. Mesa County was the first county in the state of Colorado to regain all of their jobs to pre-COVID levels. We were the quickest in the state. When COVID all started, we were projected by whoever they are to be one of the most affected negatively from the pandemic, and that was not the case. And a lot of that was due to just the collaborative efforts of community partners, economic development partners, and a resilient economy. And so whether there's a recession, whether there isn't one, what I'm really excited about is just our collaborative mindset, resilient economy. And I still think we're going to see a really good positive growth over the next 5 years in Mesa County. And we're no longer a secret. People want to be here. And so, and we want people here. But again, we want to make sure that it makes sense for all involved.
Yeah. I love that we're already seeing that resiliency at play coming out of COVID.
Absolutely.
Like that's the jam.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Be able to take the storms kind of on the chin and keep moving forward.
Exactly.
I mean, that speaks a lot to just the culture of Mesa County and Grand Junction community in general. Like, let's go.
Yep, definitely. Yep. Yeah, we're not scared of a challenge for sure around here. I mean, we've been through a lot and we always come out the other side better. So I'm definitely optimistic.
Yeah. Well, there's beautiful collaborations, beautiful amenities and endless resources available. And collaboration is the game. Bring the people to the table and figure it out.
Absolutely.
Love it. What was I going to ask you? I totally lost my question. Do you still play ball?
I don't. Nope.
No, not even softball. Like
no,
league
definitely. I stay away from slow pitch softball. That is just not my jam. I actually played a few years of fast pitch after I graduated. So, and that's a whole different world. The underhand fast pitch. I went to a couple of state tournaments and had a blast doing that, but there's just not any leagues around here for that. But once I was done playing baseball, I decided it was time to hang them up and move on.
Yeah, right on.
I will tell you, I do. I go to a ton of baseball games, especially Colorado Mesa University. They're a phenomenal baseball team. They are ranked nationally every year. They've gone to the World Series multiple times, 2-time national runners up, and beautiful brand new ballpark. Talk about a great community asset there. Love to take the family and go watch some ball games over there.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I love watching ball games too, and I'm going to be checking out some CMU games, no doubt. It is a beautiful facility, and that's great information to know. Curtis, for listeners that want to get engaged, involved, learn more about GJEP and activities, where do we want to send them?
Yeah, so they could go to our website to get all of our information, which is www.gjep.org, gjep.org, or feel free to send me an email, and I'm at curtis@gjep.org. So whatever means, I'm happy to meet with people one-on-one, happy to let people go to our website, and on our website we have sign-up opportunity for our newsletter, which we ship out on a monthly basis that has a wealth of information on what's happening at GJEP as well as within the community. So we'd love to connect with people that way.
That's awesome. We'll include a lot of those links in our show notes. So if you're listening, please go check out GJEP and learn more, get involved, reach out. I think, just in closing, Curtis, the economic development conversation is really top of mind for a lot of municipalities. And having a lot of my experience up in Gunnison, which is a much smaller community than Grand Junction, there's less resources at times, but it's still top of mind. And I love the fact that GJEP is active, collaborative, and available. And that just speaks volumes for community in general. And just anchoring it all the way back, especially for listeners who may not be in the realm, the point of economic development, as we've been discussing, is to really create these ripples throughout the community, strengthen everybody. All boats rise, tides rise kind of deal. And so I think it's awesome. I really appreciated learning a little bit more. Final words from you, my friend.
Yeah, well, first,
closing thoughts.
Yeah, first, Matt, thank you so much for letting me be a guest on your podcast. I really do appreciate it. I would say too, just being able to, if you're a listener, economic development isn't so much of a what's in it for me type thing. It's more of the long-term vision of creating a place of opportunity for our citizens as well as our future generations. And I have 2 girls that are in the school system now. I have a 4th grader and a 2nd grader, and whether they choose to go to college, whether they don't, whether they go to school outside the area, whatever their situation may be, I want them to have an opportunity to come back to Mesa County and thrive here, just like I've been given the opportunity to do so. And GJEP directly impacts that. And that's why I'm so passionate about this job and about economic development.
Beautifully said, Curtis. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.